Hello beautiful people, welcome to our YouTube channel, the Vendor Farmers YouTube channel, our third episode. Fall is here, the leaves are falling, it's a beautiful day, it looks gorgeous outside. Today we're going to make a cowboy steak, a ribeye cowboy steak, and I want to introduce Chef Jody and Chef Mandy who's going to do that for us.
Hello friends, welcome to the Vendor Farmers YouTube. I'm Chef Jody and this is Chef Mandy, and today we're going to cook this lovely hunk of sexy beef. This is called a cowboy steak. It's a ribeye. It comes from between the 6th and 12th rib on the cow, and of course this is about a 3-pounder, so this is definitely shareable. I don't know if someone could finish this, but maybe. It'd be a good challenge. So a cowboy steak is kind of confusing because it's called several different things. It's called a ribeye, a bone-in ribeye. It can be called a tomahawk. Tomahawk typically has a bone, the full bone, and it's Frenched, and it's just really beautiful. It looks kind of like a hammer. And this one is a cowboy steak because the bone is much shorter. And sometimes you might even see it a little bit shorter, and that would be called a cowgirl steak. So this is rugged like a cowboy, and then the shorter bone called a cowgirl steak would be rugged like a cowgirl, a little more feminine. Right now we have a salt brine going on. So what we're doing is we're drawing out some of the moisture, and this is going to season this piece of meat from the outside in. Before we put it on the grill, we're going to take off excess salt, and we're going to dab some of that moisture so we can create that really great crust. This is the steak before the salt brine, and the marbling is very indicative of a Wagyu steak here. Lots of intermuscular fat, and look at that bad boy. It's just really gorgeous. So Mandy's gonna take over once we get rolling here, and she's gonna grill this on the green egg. We're gonna do a nice hard char on the outside, and then we'll pull it off to some indirect heat, cook that through to about 120, and then we're going to hit it on the flat top on the green egg to get that really nice unctuous crust on the outside. So we're going to accomplish to cook this to medium rare, and we're going to let everybody taste it when it's done. We'll let it rest, and then we'll carve it up. One of my favorite things about this is it's a showcase piece of meat for the holidays. Put this on your list for Christmas dinner, or just, entertaining, because you could probably technically feed about 2 to 3 people with this. We're gonna carve it and keep the bone intact, do a nice carve on that and slice it up and present it on the bone. All right, so this little sexy beast is ready to go on the grill. Here you go, Mandy.
Thank you.
Let's take her outside.
Sizzle.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Put a little more salt on there.
That's sexy.
So essentially, we're gonna cook it on the hot heat. You can hear it. It's starting to sizzle and crack and get the flesh on the outside nice and well cooked. We're gonna move it to the indirect heat. Because it's such a thick cut of meat, we want it to cook a little bit on the lower heat so it gets cooked through, and then essentially we'll finish it on this flat top here. This is a great grill. I don't know, it's gaining a lot of popularity, and people love this product. I enjoy cooking on them as well because there's so many different options that you can cook steaks, whatever. So steaks are the best on charcoal, I think, right?
Charcoal for the win every time.
Charcoal for the win, yeah, for sure. This looks like we're using a lump charcoal, which burns nice and evenly and tends to get really super hot. So that helps too, especially when you're cooking a steak this large.
Well, the lump charcoal is different than the briquettes that you don't have to let them all
get white. Yeah. So this is a little bit quicker. You come home from work and you're like, oh shoot, I gotta start the grill. I have a half hour, blah, blah, blah. This gets hot super fast. It's ceramic, so it holds in all the heat, and it cooks up really well.
Yeah.
You got any special tips,
Special tips?
Grill Master?
I like to go with a hot fire so you get that good hard sear. Like I said, like we've said, this is a big piece of meat, so it's going to take a lot longer to cook. But if you are patient and take your time with it, it'll come out beautifully.
For sure. I prefer to either hardwood, which is fun, like a live fire.
Yeah.
That's fun. You got to be a little more experienced to do the live fire. So charcoal is like the second for someone that's a little less experienced. And I think people get really avid about grilling. There's, it used to be a man's job, but
Not anymore.
not anymore. We know how to do this. One good thing too, the bone is Frenched, and for those of you that don't know what a French bone is, all of the sinew and meat has been taken off of it, so it should stay intact. Sometimes the bone will catch on fire and it'll kind of disintegrate, but this is a really hard bone. It's the rib of the cow, so it'll stay intact and should turn out to be a pretty sexy piece of presentation.
Yes.
And
You
that's
can even see the fat starting to
the
render.
fat's starting to render. It's getting a nice little crust on there. The flame's just kissing it just right. And like I said earlier, this cut of meat is not just flavorful. Presentation-wise, it's spectacular. It's a showstopper for sure. And I would eat it every week if I could. But it's definitely a great piece of meat to splurge on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So right now we have the lid closed and we have the vent closed as well. This is going to help bring down the temperature of the green egg so that we could do the indirect heat cooking. Right now it's at about 500 degrees. So we're going to watch the thermometer and make sure it comes down probably 50 to 100 degrees. We want it around,
Ideally?
Yeah, ideally we want it around 400 degrees just to get, not to allow it to continue to caramelize, but to allow the interior to start cooking and coming up to temp. And like we said earlier, we want to cook it to about 120 degrees, which is just shy of rare.
Yep.
And then we'll cook it on that little flat top, which is inside of here. We'll probably get the temperature back up to about 450, 500 degrees, and then we'll give it a nice sear to get that crisp, crunchy little crust on it.
Yeah, so we got the temperature down to about 450 right now. Still cooking beautifully. I brought out some homemade beef tallow that we're going to sear it in when we go onto the flat top. The beef tallow is rendering down the hard fat from the cows. It makes it extra buttery and delicious. Not that the Wagyu meat needs to be more buttery and delicious than it already is.
But you can't go
But
wrong.
you can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong with, a nice marbled piece of meat with that intramuscular fat, cooking in some more fat.
Yep.
For sure.
Sexy and delicious.
Sexy and delicious. We're bringing sexy back here at Vander Farmers. So this is kind of like the waiting game with such a big piece of meat. It does take some patience, and it's well worth it in the end for sure. It's gonna, just like we said, it's gonna be so juicy. We're gonna let it rest, let all those juices go back. The salt brine that we did in the beginning is going to flavor that meat right through. And like I said before, we're gonna finish it with a little cracked black pepper and a little more finishing salt. The finishing salt is, if you can splurge on a good one, it makes a world of difference. It just, doesn't really add a salty flavor. It just makes the meat pop, if you will. It just brings it up to that next level. I don't think that Vander Farmers beef really needs a lot of seasoning, but I know people are kind of prone to do like a Montreal steak seasoning. That tends to have some dry garlic in it, which can burn. And I don't really care for the dry garlic on a steak. No. I'd rather see it finished with a little bit of garlic butter, a garlic compound butter, where it's flavored with the garlic and it just kind of melts into the steak. Whereas if you had it on there before, it would tend to burn, like I said, and get bitter and not flavorful at all. So. And
Vander steak doesn't need any of that anyways.
No.
Just a little salt and pepper.
This is my favorite time of year, really is. And I hope in a next content, fall to me means braising. So that's a whole different level of cooking. I think I said in our last episode that the oxtail is one of my favorite. It is underrated. People don't use it enough. So hopefully we can showcase a episode on the oxtail, braise it, and turn it into something really wonderful. It is like the best pot roast you could ever put in your mouth, the oxtail. It's the meat, it's obviously the tail of the cow, so it gets a lot of action, if you will. You know, they're flicking it around all the time, so you have to cook it low and slow, and you just make a really great broth. Cook it till it falls off the bone, and you can do so many things with it.
It's delicious.
Really great ramen.
Ramen would be fun.
Empanadas.
Croquettes.
Croquettes.
Oh, yeah. Marjolein's favorite, the croquettes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of versatility with that.
Look at Mario's, sorry, look at Mario's face. Say croquettes and
This is a like I said, a patient cook, yeah, but well worth it. Mandy and I have cooked many steaks, so we know by feel how to tell what the temp is at. But I also, you know, a fan of the probe thermometers. But I would say we're probably at a good rare. And at this point, if you wanted to, you could put some butter on there. And in a future episode, we'll talk about some sauces and we'll talk about some compound butters. You know, you could baste it with a little bit of herb. But for today, because this is just such a sexy piece of meat, we're gonna do it this way and keep it simple, because there's nothing that
need anything.
We don't need to add anything to this. Probably my favorite cut of meat is the ribeye, by far.
Same.
And anything with a bone on it, to me, tastes so much better. I don't know why. The bone doesn't really do anything for the flavor, but
I see that in the store too, that people want to
bone.
buy with the bone because
Yeah.
it gives that extra flavor.
yeah. Well, and the presentation on this is beautiful.
Yeah.
After we let it rest, we're gonna keep the bone intact. We're gonna slice it and shingle it, and beautiful holiday dinner.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or just a Tuesday afternoon.
Or a Tuesday afternoon.
Tuesday afternoon.
On a beautiful
fall day.
Yeah. Stop stealing my lines.
All right.
Oh, look at this.
Turn it to the other side.
So, look at this.
Oh yeah. Doesn't get any better than that. We're gonna take this bad boy back inside. We're gonna let it rest, and then we're gonna carve it up and show you how to present it. We'll see you in the house. All right, friends, we're gonna season this with a little cracked black pepper. And this is a company out of South Bend, Terra Spice. Giving them a little shout out because they do wonderful things. And this is just this very flaky sea salt. It's not salty at all. Mandy got mad at me because I let my Frenchie have a little piece earlier today.
Just feeding the Frenchie straight salt.
Feeding the Frenchie straight salt. Helping with her blood pressure. So we're letting this rest, And the purpose of resting, once again, is to let all the juices go back into the meat. And my experience with Vander Farmers is when we unpackage it, it looks like there's a lot of juice, and people mistake that for blood, but it's actually a product called myoglobin. So it's not blood, it's not the cow's blood, it's just something inside of the meat that gets released, you know, during the processing part, during the packaging part, all that stuff. So right now you can see there's very little juice seeping out, so Mandy did a great job putting that crust on there.
Thank you.
Little high five. And we're gonna cut into it. I like to let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes, and the bone runs this way. So you wanna always try to identify the, help me? Grain, thank you. A little brain dead today.
Cut against the grain.
You always wanna cut against the grain, and sometimes steaks this large, it's hard to see that. You're gonna want to go this way, but that's not always the right way. So we're gonna cut it off the bone, and then we'll be able to read where the meat, the grain is, and then we'll go from there. The bone curves this way, so we're just gonna follow that right like this, hopefully. Oh, it's a little farther, there we go. So you wanna just find that bone. This is great to chew on, give it to the dog, whatever. So we're gonna go this way with the meat, and I'm gonna go on this side. And this little piece right there, we're gonna turn it around. And that's how we identify where the grain is. And we're gonna cut this way. Beautiful fat inside there. We've got a perfect mid-rare. The fat on the ribeye to me is so edible. It's not sinewy, it's
Buttery.
buttery. It's a great piece all the way through, a little bit on the end. Now, if we're gonna present this on a plate, we're gonna shingle it a little bit, show that sexy piece of meat, and then we're gonna put the bone right beside it. And there is your Vander Farmer cowboy steak. Mouths are watering.
Really is, yeah.
I'm gonna get into it. Let's go in.
Can I go into it?
Yeah, everybody get in there.
Get in there.
Oh my God.
So good.
You know
So
what
good.
I call this? Orgasm food. I don't know if you can put it out there, but man. Oh.
So good.
Even the outer part is not so red.
Yeah.
Soft.
And one of the good things about this larger cut of meat, not everybody wants a medium rare. There's people that want a little bit more done. So it's kind of like the prime rib. The outsides cook up and they go a little bit longer, and then the middle's nice and, yeah,
It's insane, eh?
it's so good.
So buttery. So
So delicious.
like, subscribe, and comment. And see you guys on the next episode because they're gonna make something epic again. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for
It was
having us.
Fun,
Yeah,
fun.
cheers.
Yeah.
Eat good meat.
Yep.
Yes.
Stop Vander. There you go.